everybody. Welcome to the Silver Lyming. My name is Anne Desjardins. I'm your host, and I really had the main intent of starting this podcast to help to spread hope and awareness about Lyme and tick-borne illness, and really to share with you that not everything about this is bad. There are some good things that definitely come out of it, because I remember when I was going through my own struggle, it took me 7 years to get a diagnosis and another 7 years to fix myself, but there were a lot of really bad days in the middle of that. And I often wanted to give up, basically plain and simple, just give up on life. And that's really not a place for any human to exist for a long period of time. Lyme has one of the highest rates of suicide for any chronic illness, just so you're aware of that. And again, having gone through that experience, I can really understand why, because you just feel crummy every day. And each day it's like Groundhog Day. It just keeps going and going and going. And sometimes we never get a reprieve from our symptoms, and that just begins to wear on a human soul. And I can completely relate with those people who decide to check out, because it's a very long battle sometimes. But I would like to encourage you not to do that. Clearly, I would always encourage everyone not to do that, because like if you take my life, for example, I mean, again, it took me 7 years to get a diagnosis, 7 years to fix myself, but I'm here now. I'm healthy and whole, and I'm really grateful for my experience. It was one of the most beautiful things that I've ever witnessed in terms of a soul's evolution, but it was really hard. And if I had checked out, I wouldn't be here now to enjoy the fruits of my labor, if you will. And I just really want people to understand that you can heal from this. It sometimes takes the will of God, pretty much, but it is possible to heal and to regain some normalcy in life, to regain some quality of life, to want to be alive again versus not wanting to be alive. And so just hold on to hope. And something else I was thinking about, where we're at seasonally right now, I was talking to my goddaughters the other day and I said 5 more weeks till spring. But what we do know what that means is that that's tick season as well. At least that's what my brain will equate that to. And just remembering that winter doesn't necessarily kill off ticks. They can really survive through the snow, through the cold temperatures. They make a little bit of a nest. The snow will blanket them and they can survive through that. And then they'll be there super hungry when springtime comes, and they'll be looking for their blood meal. So just make sure that you're not their blood meal, taking proper steps of precaution, doing your best to understand about their environment, know the different things that matter in terms of prevention. And if you're ever confused about these points, you can certainly reach out to me. I'm a certified public prevention specialist through the state of Pennsylvania. I'm always happy to talk to people about this and how to keep you and your family safer. But today I have a really wonderful guest with me, Ryann McIntire. We were just discussing this. I was like, how long has it been? It's probably been 6 to 7 years since I met Ryann at a Global Lyme Alliance gala. And this was one of the very first events that I participated in when I got diagnosed. And I remember going, it was definitely, I think in August. I was so excited to go. I could not wait to go. I just felt like it was such a special thing to be a part of. And she is one of the people that I met way back in the beginning of my journey. And we've stayed in touch on social media. It's been fun to watch her grow and change. She's very young when she contracted Lyme and tick-borne illness. And now I think she said she's almost 30 years old, but it's been, it's been nice to see her go through the changes that she's been going through, but I'll let her talk a little bit more about where she's at with things and her own story. So Ryann, again, thank you for being here with me. I really appreciate you and your positive spin on life that I get to see on social media. And just, again, I told you earlier, but it's like you always have a smile on your face. You're always seemingly in an uplifting, happy space. And that's going to really make a big difference when it comes down to fighting something on a chronic level like Lyme and tick-borne illness. But if you don't mind, could you please just share with us a little bit more about who you are, how you became involved with Lyme and tick-borne illness, and your story with it, please?
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me on your awesome podcast. I'm so excited to share a little bit about my story. And so I'm 29 years old, and they think I had Lyme since I was in first grade. I had a tick embedded in my scalp. I went to the doctor for it. I had some rashes after, but they never treated me for it. They just said, it'll go away, like it's fine, kind of brushed it off. But my whole childhood and life, I had, joint pain, pain in my legs. I had the Bartonella stretch mark rash on my legs and my stomach as a very young kid. And they just said it was from growing pains or, just all of that and just kind of brushed it off. But then nothing too significant of symptoms really popped up until I was like 20, 21 years old in college. And that's when like there was just a huge catalyst of everything, just so many symptoms were piling up. And it took probably about 6 months to a year to find someone who would figure out what was wrong with me. And we didn't even think of Lyme disease through it all until like it was a last resort kind of check this from a family friend. And that's when I finally got diagnosed. So it took a really long time to get to the bottom of it all. But yeah, so now I'm almost 30 and I've had such a long journey with Lyme, as many of the people listening to this probably are also in the middle of it or starting it or have been through the same type of story as me. But I kind of started out with finding a doctor who didn't really know as much about Lyme as I thought and hoped. So they ended up at one point saying that my case was too severe and they couldn't treat me because they didn't know how. So that kind of was like when I was at my worst, they like discharged me because they couldn't figure out how to like get me better. So I ended up finding an amazing nurse practitioner in the state of New York. Because at the time, it's crazy, but so much Lyme in Massachusetts, they didn't have like a lot of specialists for Lyme. So I went to her and I truly feel like she saved my life. And I know we'll get more into it, but I went through so many different treatments and stuff that's brought me to where I am today. So yeah, that's a little crash course in the whole
Yeah.
story there. But
Yeah, because like when I'm sitting here doing the math, it's like, okay, that's 23 years of your life. I mean, if we're technically 6 years old in first grade, 23 years of your life that you've been impacted by this. And again, sitting there, it's what would have been 15 years going with no answer to what was happening with your body. And so I know you mentioned you had some joint pain. Can you kind of just go through some of your symptoms for people so that they would know if like their body was going through some of them, what that could maybe be?
yeah, so as a child and growing up, like I mentioned, it was nothing that was like so severe that myself or my family was like, we got to take her to the doctor like right now. A lot of times it would be like I'd go to the doctor for my physical and be like, yeah, I have really bad knee pain, really bad pains in my legs that are keeping me up at night. And they would just say, growing pains, or I played 3 sports every year. So they would say it's probably just you're tired from sports or it's stress from school. And, it was like I would just get so tired. And yeah, so they just brushed it off as like sports. But the main things growing up were like the really bad joint pain in my knees and like pain in my legs that was like muscle pain and just like achiness in my legs, especially at night, that I would complain about. And then yeah, like the Bartonella, if the people listening don't know, like a way that Bartonella can present itself looks like stretch marks. And I had them all over my legs. And like I know stretch marks happen as you age, but when you're in like third grade, that's not really a thing. But they were like, yeah, it's just because, she's a little chubbier or this, like they just would like brush it off as that. But so many years later, like when I did a lot of work treating Bartonella, like they totally went away. So it was like
Wow.
a rash I had for so long and it just like totally cleared up. So yeah, pretty crazy. But yeah, I also know like sometimes like lately where I've been having some little setbacks, the rashes are kind of like coming back a little bit. But at least I know now like that's a way that my body is like showing me like, okay, it's time to kind of like get down to business with this. But yeah, so nothing crazy growing up. It was just things that they could just like associate with sports or being tired from school and growing and all of that.
I had no idea that the Bartonella rash would go away. I just kind of always assumed that that was a permanent thing. If I understand correctly, when that happens to
Yeah,
people, it's because the proteins are getting broken down in the skin, which is not that exciting. That's definitely not something that's good. So your collagen is being depleted and the skin just stretches too much and it starts to break apart. Um,
right.
but that's really good to know that you can repair that too through time
Yeah.
and fixing yourself. So I'm sorry that
Hmm.
again you've got some ups and downs yet going on, but at least there is that hope that's like, okay, good. And it is smart. Like
Yeah.
our bodies are so smart and they tell us what we need. We talked about that a little bit too, but when your body's showing you those signs and symptoms like that, then it's like, okay, I've really got to figure out a different way forward. And one of my past guests had talked about even with the bullseye rash that, it's like, well, why do only 35% of people get a bullseye rash? What makes the difference there? And she had thought that maybe people who have a very healthy immune system, when they get bit, will express the rash because their body's just able to focus on that and fight it off versus people who have other things happening throughout their system that your immune system's already taxed with, that it won't necessarily express that rash because it's not seeing that as a main threat. It sees these other things that you've got going on. And I thought, well, that's an interesting theory. That would make
Yeah,
sense.
totally.
Not sure if that's, truly accurate or not. And so, all right. So then when you got to college, we all know
Mhm.
college can be incredibly stressful, not like high school sometimes in and of itself isn't enough. But when we get to
Right.
college, then, we've got different schedules. Now we're on our own more or less and having to figure out how to function as a fully formed adult, if you will, if we like to think of college students as fully formed adults, but doing the laundry, getting the groceries, taking care of ourselves. I don't know
Yeah.
on a campus somewhere living in dorms or if you were still at home, but um I can remember when I went to college and it was very stressful and just a very different way of being than what I was accustomed to for the first 18 years of my life. So I'm not sure if that was like a trigger for you, if that's really what happened, but
Mhm.
tell me a little bit more about what happened to you when you did get to college.
Yeah, so in early college, I was still kind of just like same joint pain, would get tired. I played field hockey my first year. And so even I at that point was like, oh, I'm just like sore from running or I'm sore from working out. Like it had been my whole life pretty much that my knees would hurt or that my bones would hurt after working out. And I just thought that was like what happened to everyone at that point. And that like sometimes after people would play a sport, they weren't like totally sore and like needed to rest forever. So I didn't really think much of it at that point. But then I transferred colleges. I was in school in Florida, and then I transferred up to the University of New Hampshire, where I wasn't playing a sport anymore. And I felt like okay. And then it wasn't until my like junior year, late like second semester, I started to really start experiencing tons of symptoms with like it was mainly with my blood sugar, which is so random, but I would have these blood sugar drops and would get dizzy walking to class. I was having such a hard time focusing in class and like retaining info. I wasn't doing well in school, and I usually was like an A B student, but I was just not doing well. Just was like exhausted, had no motivation to like go to the gym or anything. And I would go to the doctors and they just said, like it's probably just stress, it's probably this, like they just totally brushed it off. And then I got an opportunity to study abroad my senior year, first semester in Australia. And I was like so excited. And I knew that I had had some stuff going on with my health, but all the doctors were telling me it was totally fine and nothing was going on. So there really wasn't like any main pull to say no to that. I was like, okay, like I've dealt with these things for a while now, like it'll be fine. So I went abroad in the fall, like late summer, and it was about like a week or two after I got there, I just like totally tanked and I did not feel good at all. I was having severe blood sugar problems where it would go high, it would go low. I was having really bad stomach pains, joint pain everywhere, severe fatigue and headaches. And one of my worst symptoms was like memory stuff. And I was at the time like 20, 21 years old, and I would be walking on campus and completely forget where I was and not know why I was there or where I was walking to. And I remember this was kind of like the icing on the cake of all of this happening. That happened to me once on my way to class, and I literally just had to sit on a bench and like call one of my friends and try and have them come meet me because I didn't know like where I was or what was going on. And at that point, after like going to the hospitals in Australia and trying to have them help me, obviously being sick in another country on the other side of the world isn't the easiest thing. And just like with insurance too, they didn't know anything about Lyme or what was going on, but they knew like something was wrong. So they just kind of advised me, like you got to go home and like figure out what's going on back in Massachusetts. So I had to medically withdraw from school, and I flew home, and my mom met me in California, and we stayed there for a few days. And then when I got home, we were kind of like, all right, like I'm going to go to the doctor. We're going to figure out what's wrong. It's going to be like a quick fix, and then I'll be able to go back next semester. But that was not the case. So it took so long to figure out what was wrong. And that was like a really dark time for me because obviously leaving studying abroad experience was so hard alone, and like leaving my senior year of college and just being like so sick at home with no answers and having to like basically watch all my friends just have like the best time in college senior year, like graduate and all of that. And I just felt like so low and so stuck at that point, which I know so many other girls, especially like my age, I've connected with that like also had to leave school senior year or junior year of college, is like so challenging. But with all the symptoms and just feeling crappy and not having doctors tell you any answers, it's like really hard.
Ridiculously hard. And I feel like there's a lot of literature written about or research done about the topic of women in particular being left out to dry, so to speak. And like if a man were to go to the doctor and complain of the same symptoms said, it would be like, oh, well, how can we roll out the red carpet for you and take care of you,
Yeah.
make you feel better? Should we give you massages? Shall we do? Versus the women where it's like, sorry, you're just stressed and depressed and have a good life.
Yeah.
Take care. There's nothing wrong with you. And that's a whole other topic. But it's
Mhm.
hard because this is a very invisible illness. Like your blood work looks fine, everything looks fine, but
Yeah.
inside that you're really, really sick and something is drastically wrong. I can't imagine what that would have been like to be in a different country. I got sick with something when I was in Greece, and that was freaky because I was on an island. Like I don't have a doctor there. I don't, and I'm talking to my dad who
Yeah.
is a doctor, and I'm like, what do I do? And he's telling me names of antibiotics to get and ask for medication at the pharmacy. And thankfully they were able to figure out what to give me, but it's hard because
Yeah.
it's very different than having the comfort of your own doctor that you're used to seeing and talking with. Um, and so I'm imagining probably just all of the travel, the different environment, everything was just enough stress maybe to really spark some more severe symptoms for you and for people.
Yeah.
Just know that stress is one of the biggest enemies of Lyme and tick-borne illness. It really can completely defeat you because your whole system is hijacked then, and it just lowers all of your immune system even further, and things just really crop up. That's, I find, a big trigger for people when it comes to this. And, sometimes you can be bit by a tick and have zero symptoms, and then you have a major trauma or event in your life that really unleashes all of these symptoms. And it's like, well, I didn't recently get bit by a tick. And again, they're really small. So that's another thing. It's like hard to know exactly when you've been bitten, but
Right.
many people are just like, I wasn't recently bit. I don't know what you're talking about. And it's like, well, probably because it's lying dormant in your system for a good amount of time. And
Yeah.
so
Totally.
were you able to finish college?
Yeah, so I honestly didn't think I was going to be able to because every time like my mom would help me too at the time, we tried to see if they would accommodate and let me do school remotely or Zoom into my classes because I was already a senior, so I really didn't have that much left to complete. But they would not budge on trying to accommodate me at all. So that was hard because I really thought I wasn't going to be able to finish with like only a little bit left. So I ended up, after COVID happened, so this was like I was supposed to graduate in 2017 and I didn't end up graduating until 2021. So it was a huge gap of time, but I ended up, because of COVID, they let so many kids, even kids that were living on campus, they had to Zoom into their classes. So that was like kind of a silver lining of that for me because at that point, like it wasn't even a question. I could sign up as if I were living on campus and do the same as everyone else. So I just zoomed into all the classes that I needed to take from home. And it was challenging because I was also doing like round the clock IV treatments while I was like zooming into my classes. So I didn't always feel the best, but it was like, it made me feel so grateful that I was even able to like zoom into the classes because I wanted to finish school so bad. So it wasn't like I would have felt years ago doing school and zooming in. I would have been like, here we go, time for class.
Yeah.
But I was like so grateful and so excited to finish. So I was way more motivated to get it done, which was a huge blessing. So yeah, I finished up within that year. It just took a year pretty much to finish up those classes.
Way to go. And that
Thank
again,
you.
that attitude, that's like seeing the best in the situations because it's like the rest of the world is like COVID, rah.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, COVID, yay.
yeah, I
So
know.
much
I was
better for
like,
me that I
okay,
can
this
do
is
this.
great. Yeah.
Yep, yep. And that's wonderful. And actually, I do remember when you graduated and asking that question. I was like, no, I do remember actually seeing your photo.
Yeah, I know. It felt really good to finish up because I really didn't think I was going to be able to. So it was nice.
That you made it. And that's really good
Yeah.
story because it's not easy. I've interviewed a couple other people who got sick during college and like for the average listener, it's like your brain is broken. It's what
Hmm.
starts to happen over time. And it's really hard to, as you had said, remember where you are, remember what you're doing, think about things, have concrete, solid thoughts going through the brain and being able to retain the information. And you're taking tests and it's like, oh God, I don't remember this at all. Even
Yeah.
like, what am I even doing here? Kind of a thing sometimes. So I really applaud you in getting that completed because I know that's definitely not an easy task, especially if you're attached to an IV pole. Like,
Yeah.
that's over and above and beyond. So you should definitely be very, very proud of that. And
Thank you.
so you did the IV antibiotics. How long did you have to take those for?
So I first started out with like oral antibiotics for a while and then for like a couple years and then I got a port and I switched to the IV antibiotics for about I want to say like 3 years. So it was a really long time and I know that it helped me a little bit, but there's also parts of me that feel that it was a little bit too much for my body. Because it was literally every day, 3 times a day. And I only had, besides going to sleep, I only had about like 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes at night where I wasn't doing treatment. So it was like a lot. And it was 3 different antibiotics that I was on. So it was like tons getting pumped into my body. And at the time, I think I was just like, okay, like I trust my doctor and I know that like other people have had success with this. The oral antibiotics didn't work for me. So I'm grateful that I get to try this. And it did help, but I think it was one of those things where like it helped some things, but it also really hurt other things. So, and it to be on that for so long was like I don't think it was very good for my system. So, yeah, I feel like my body was just like really needing a break after that long of getting all that pumped in there. So, yeah, it was definitely like 2 to 3 years of that. But after the antibiotics, like the oral antibiotics, I was like, I want to just be done. So we tried one other, like after the IV, we switched to another oral one. And that gave me some like neuropathy side effects. And so I was just like, okay, I'm done with the antibiotics. It's not working for me. It has helped at times get me to a little bit better, but it's not like really doing the 100% job. And I know that's not, I don't want to say that and like discourage people because I know that it does really help some people, but I just think everybody's different. And for me, it was just, I had had enough of antibiotics in my system at that point. So I tried to go a more herbal route, and then I got the opportunity to also do immunotherapy, which I've been on for a while currently. And I just recently took a break from it because it was just like also not making me feel the 100% best. It would like give me a couple good days, but then I would go back to not feeling great again. So I like just after a while was like, okay, I just need a break from like the IVs and this. And I just kind of gave myself a little space to just kind of reset from everything, and kind of just go back to basics with what I know makes me feel best. So just giving my body a breather from that now. But yeah, it's been a lot of years of the IV stuff, I would say.
Yeah, and so immunotherapy, I think maybe you're the first person I've had on here to talk about that. Can you
Mm-hmm.
explain that a little bit more, please?
Yeah, so obviously I'm not a doctor, but the way that it was explained to me is that like a lot of people literally call it liquid gold because it's so expensive per dose, but luckily they covered it for me. And the only reason they decided to try and put me on it was because of like the dysautonomia stuff I have going on from Lyme and the neuropathy that I got from Lyme, but also as like a side effect from the treatment. And it actually really did help with the neuropathy, and like their point of it was to try and like stop it from spreading. And the way immunotherapy does that and how they explained it was that I had extremely high levels of these antibodies that attack your nerves and basically just like destroy them, which then causes like the neuropathy, the dysautonomia, all these things with your nervous system. And the goal of the immunotherapy is to lower the antibodies so that eventually you don't have all these antibodies attacking parts of your body that they're not supposed to be attacking. So, yeah, so that was kind of how they explained it. But the thing with immunotherapy is you have to be on it, at least from my knowledge, for kind of a long time to hit like the plateau where you like feel good after every treatment. So they were like, you have to be on it for at least a year to even see if it's going to help you, which is a big commitment, obviously, but like to not feel good after every one is really hard to be like, okay, is this really going to help me or is it hurting me? Like, after spending so many years of treatment, you kind of start to be like losing hope. But again, I was like, okay, everyone's saying that like there's people out there that want to get this covered by insurance and they can't. And I got it covered so easily. So I feel like I have to give it like a shot if it's like this liquid gold, you know what I mean? So yeah, so I pretty much was on it for about a year and a half. And then I just was not noticing like enough of a change where it was like night and day after the treatment. I was still feeling pretty wiped out from the treatment because it was a 9 hour long infusion. So it was like not only that, but just being, and I'm like such a believer of like your environment and how that stress impacts you too. And it started out being at home with nurses at my house, but then they no longer covered the at home care. So I had to go to the hospital every week. And just being in that environment and having to spend my whole day there and just sit there, like, I feel like that alone was like impacting my health. Because I just would get so down. And even if I tried to be positive about it, and I always tried to be grateful that I was able to get that treatment, but it still was not easy to be there all day every week and then know, like, okay, I'm not going to feel good tonight. And tomorrow I'm not going to feel that good. And I'm probably going to have terrible migraines after. And just like, yeah, it just wasn't really like night and day, like I said. So I just decided to take a little break and give my body a break and give my mental health a break from it too.
Yeah. That's really unfortunate in a sense that they forced you to go into the hospital then.
Hmm.
It's clear that you could certainly do that kind of treatment from home. And
Yeah.
I can completely understand that. Like I just think about going to the hospital even as a bystander with family members, and it's like
Yeah.
not any
Yeah.
place
It's
I
not
really
very
want
uplifting place
to.
to be.
No, no, not a
Yeah.
place I want to spend a good amount of my life at. And
No.
1 day a week is a lot to commit to that, especially again, if you're not necessarily noticing that positive of a change afterwards. I can completely understand that you would want to take some space from that. Um, do you still do herbal treatments? Is that still something that you work with?
Yeah. So I'm actually, I, so as I mentioned, I kind of took a break from like the IV antibiotics from Lyme and kind of switched everything into like doing the immunotherapy and trying to just like focus really a lot on like what I was putting in my body. So a lot of the food and all of that. And I was also really overwhelmed with taking hundreds of supplements every day. So I really just like toned it all down and focused on the basics. And now I'm actually like going back to my Lyme doctor that I had been with for years, and like I'm going to do another check-in soon, and she is so like open to kind of like, okay, like I know antibiotics are helpful, but I also know for some people herbal is like the route to go, and sometimes you need a combination. So I'm going to start like a new protocol for that soon, but right now I'm doing a lot to detox mold from my system. So a lot of the supplements I'm on right now and herbal stuff is strictly to like get rid of mold. So that's like a main focus right now, I would say.
Do you notice any difference with that?
I noticed that, so I definitely noticed that it helps my energy, but I also notice sometimes it's very interesting where like if I'm having a really stressful week or I'm just feeling like I'm in a big flare up with Lyme, that like adding all the detox stuff, as a lot of you know, like it can cause like the Herx reactions. So I feel like I've been feeling that super heavily lately, even with just like doing glutathione and things like that. Like I'll feel if I take too much, I'm like, oh, the Lyme isn't happy with this, which is a good thing, but also like it's exhausting. So yeah, it's I'm just trying to find like the fine line that's like gonna help me enough, but not wipe me out too much, you know?
Yeah. Yes. And that's what I will tell my own clients is like, let's just go slow and steady. Slow and steady wins the race. Because when you add anything new into your body, again, you don't necessarily know how you're going to react to it and what's going to happen to you as a consequence. And I think you're onto it when you say like, oh, the Lyme isn't happy. I picture oftentimes poking the bear, right? Poking the sleeping bear,
Yeah,
waking it, because it does get agitated and it becomes a lot more active in the body. And then consequently, you will feel symptoms flare up as well. And again, with the die off alone, sometimes that's enough just to make your whole system, your whole circuitry not feel well. Um,
yeah.
do you, I would imagine you've been, I can't, it's surprising to me the number of people with Lyme and tick-borne illness that don't get checked for mold and heavy metals. And I do think that there is a correlation, like maybe it's the mold symptoms that you're really feeling. Maybe it's not the Lyme. Maybe it's the Lyme that you're feeling and not really the mold. But I think it's really critical for people to get those levels tested to understand what's going on in their body. Do you get that checked regularly? Would that be some kind of a way for you to see if that's actually having an impact on you?
Yeah, so I not that long ago we got our house tested before I moved out of my house, because we kind of had like this pivotal moment, like you're saying, where we're like, is it more the mold? Is it more the Lyme? Like, is the Lyme not getting better because of the mold, or is the mold not getting better because of the Lyme? It's so hard to know. And like we talked about earlier, the symptoms are so just like in alignment with each other that it's really hard to like decipher which is which sometimes. So I was tested for mold and I had pretty high levels of them. And then also with the Lyme, like there was still a lot of that and very present babesiosis and Bartonella as like co-infections. So like I feel like I have a little bit of it all going on, but I have done a lot of research and just I feel like the mold definitely, like it seems, sometimes prevents people from totally healing Lyme because of what it does to your immune system and all of that. So that's kind of why I just like took a step back on going all in on Lyme, and just I'm trying to like detox and get that out of my system so that my system is better set up to tackle the Lyme. And we actually invested in an infrared sauna as well as like part of my treatment protocol because I notice I feel so much better after using it, and I know that it's helpful for both Lyme and mold. So it kind of kills two birds with one stone. And but yeah, it's one thing that really makes me feel a lot better, but I know it's also helping at least a little bit with those things.
Yes. And that's one thing, Lyme hates heat. That's another thing that it is, I think, agitated a little bit by, but I'm glad that you feel better after that. And a lot of people will turn to hypothermia treatments in which they heat up their body to 106 degrees, I believe, and then they actually sedate you for the process and put in a lot of antibiotics because your cells are really open and able to then receive the antibiotics and have great success through those kinds of treatment options. So I'm glad that you were able to invest in that because I know it's not cheap, but it is definitely something that's well worth it because it does take care of so many of the things that we contend with mold and with the Lyme and with the Bart and the Babesia and all of that. It really helps
Yeah.
put those things back into check. So I'm glad you have access to that. Have you, but when I asked to like getting your levels tested internally in your body, do you get that checked too with mold levels?
Yeah, so yes, so I did have the mold levels in my body checked, and I haven't gotten them retested because it wasn't all that long ago. So I'm hoping that after kind of like doing this protocol that those levels will hopefully be on a better
Yeah.
trending
Yeah.
down, so that that can really help because yeah, the past year or so, and another reason, just like real quick with the Lyme, just kind of putting a pause on that, a lot of people listening probably know too that Lyme treatment is so expensive and a lot of it isn't covered by insurance. So another reason why I had to kind of put a pause on that was because my family and I literally couldn't afford to go to even just have an appointment and to get the proper, like, accurate testing done that I needed, because it's thousands and thousands of dollars that, like, after so many years of doing it, we just like literally could not afford it anymore. So I pretty much just had to stop going to see my doctor, stop going, buying all the supplements I was doing, having the appointments and treatments I needed.
It froze up on me.
Yeah, so as many people probably know that are listening to this, or maybe don't know, that Lyme is so expensive. The treatments aren't really covered by insurance a lot of times, and especially Lyme specialist doctor's appointments are usually not covered by insurance. So after so many years of seeing a specialist and spending tons of money on the appointments and on the treatments, our family and myself, like I obviously wasn't working during this time, so I didn't have income. Did I freeze again?
Yeah, you're back now. It was like
Okay.
we didn't have income, and then that's where it chopped you off.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So, not having income to contribute to all of the expensive appointments and treatments was really hard because obviously my parents both working really hard, and they had to spend a ton of money on trying to get their daughter better. And it's so expensive. So after many years, we had to just kind of put a pause on it because we literally couldn't afford it anymore. And so that was really challenging because obviously, like, none of us wanted to be in that position, but it was to the point where we were like having to put like on credit cards and things, like just like all my treatments, and it was just way too much, and it was impossible to like catch up on. Where I was having to go every month and order all of these expensive medicines and supplements. So yeah, we really just had to stop because of financial reasons. But yeah, so that was really hard too, because I feel like that's the case for a lot of people in the Lyme community. If you don't have like the finances to keep up with the appointments and the testing and everything that you need, it's really, really hard to like keep up with checking in on your Lyme and get fully better from that route of things. So that was really challenging because obviously I really wish that I could be like very consistent with the testing and all of that, but it's so hard financially to do that, especially after doing it for so many years.
It's just wrong, right? Like people talk
Mhm.
about you don't want socialized medicine in the United States, and it's like, well, the way I look at that is like you've either got it or you don't have it. And in this instance, we don't have it, and that's a big problem. And I don't know if people quite grasp that. As we always say too, it's like you don't get it until you get it. And
Right.
I don't want other people to have to go through this. So if you're really wanting to do something to help the Lyme community, call your local elected officials, reach out to the Senate, let them know that this is not acceptable. This is not fair for people to have to spend their entire retirement package. We're good, hardworking citizens doing the right thing, paying our taxes. We have health insurance, but yet we don't have access to treatment for this kind of sickness. And this is something that I've seen wipe people out completely financially. I went through it myself. I was in a huge amount of debt from it. It just shouldn't be like this. There has got to be a different path forward for people. And I have someone who's living in a tent right now. Like she's because of mold exposure and other things, and she can't afford anything. She lives in a tent. Like that's just,
Yeah.
we've got to do better. And so please, again, if you're feeling compelled by Ryan's story and just thinking about the fact that here we have a beautiful young lady sitting with a very good heart, very good being, but she can't afford her treatment, please reach out to the elected officials. They're elected for a reason. We put our voice and our trust and our faith in them to do things, to do them right, do right by us, and let them know that this kind of thing is not okay. We are not okay with this. We have a big event actually this week. I know this podcast won't post now for a couple weeks after the event, but there's a big ground movement coming along called the Lyme Fly-In. I don't know if you saw that at all, but there's participants this year is the first time from all 50 states that are participating to talk to our senators and let them know, and our local elected officials, let them know what's going on with this, that this is a huge problem. I've talked about this plenty of times in the past, but 400 to 600,000 people a year are infected in our country alone. This is a major epidemic that's going on. That's not high enough on people's priority list. And again, it's leaving people like Ryann, me, countless others without access to proper medical treatment. Because again, as you said, no two people are the same with this either. Everybody presents symptoms differently, different treatments work differently. It's not like, I can't even say cancer because I have my own thoughts about chemo and treatments for cancer and how that all works. But like, if we're going to use that example, let's look at a broken leg. That's very black and white, in my opinion. You have a broken leg, you get it set, you get a cast, you let the bone heal. It's a very straightforward path to healing versus something like Lyme and even cancer. It's not a straightforward path to wellness again. And that also makes it very challenging. There's, I think, 300 some strains of Lyme worldwide, 100 some in the US. They all have different things going on. You have these other co-infections as you're talking about, Babesia and Bartonella and anaplasmosis, cytomegalovirus, ehrlichiosis, Rocky Mountain spotted fever, the Powassan virus. Like the list grows every year of these weird things that ticks can transmit to us. And so really, what's the best path forward? I think ultimately it just comes down to insurance companies needing to take a hit on the chin, if you will. We pay into them for a reason. We want to have access to that so that we can get better. And how are you denying someone access to good healthcare? That's just not okay. Definitely not okay. It's something that I'm very passionate about because I don't like seeing people such as yourself suffer. Like, you deserve to have good quality of health and life. And I know that you've recently got engaged, you're planning a wedding, you've got a lot of things to look forward to and a whole life ahead of you. You're still so young. Like, we need to
Yeah.
do better. We need to do better. And if I'm really on my soapbox, I think about this as like national security threat, right? Like, if our citizens are too sick to be participating, like, that's hurting us as a country. That's really doing damage to us. And we need to fix it now. But
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I totally.
go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I totally agree with you that, like, and I know cancer, like, I agree it's sometimes hard to like compare it to people with it, but it is true that something like cancer or, even like you said, like broken bones or like a heart thing or anything, like
Diabetes. Yeah.
yeah, diabetes, you get diagnosed, you have a specialist for it at your top hospital near you or locally, and they know exactly what you need to do. They set up a treatment plan and they say, we're doing this treatment for this many times or this many months. And then at the end of that, we test you again and hopefully everything's good to go. But like that's something I ran into because so many people over the years would say, oh, like when is your treatment going to be done? Or how much longer do you have to do it? And with things like that, with Lyme, like there's no end date to it. It's just, how are you feeling? How are your labs looking? But also, if you do this, it might reflare it up. So it's like, there's no set timeline, which I think that kind of goes into like the suicide like rates being so high and the really bad depression because there's no like end goal. It's not like, okay, if I get through these 3 months, then I have 2 months left. Like, it's just, you're just going to keep doing it and hope it works and hope you don't get side effects and all of that, which is really, really hard to stay positive through all of that.
Yes, that's a very good, accurate description of things. And it's like, I try to tell people to journal their symptoms on a scale of 1 to 10 through the process because there's really no other gauge. There's really no other way for you to decide, am I getting better? Am I not getting better? How much longer is this going to take? How much more money? And like, again, I mentioned stress is one of the biggest problems. And if we have this financial problem going on where you're trying to figure out how to pay for treatments, what do you think that's doing to stress levels, putting it through the roof? And when we don't have enough money, it's like, I'm depressed because I can't afford my treatments. I can't get myself better because I don't have access to what I need to do this. And I mean, I would sort of joke in the fact that it's like, I'm almost to the point where I want to stand on the corner and hook myself out so that I can earn money so that I can pay for the treatment.
Yeah,
That's like, it's
literally.
funny, but it's not
Yeah.
funny. It's like, I shouldn't even have to think
Yeah,
about this. Like, I'm
I
trying to
know.
figure out, again, how do I find a way to afford to fix myself? And,
Yeah.
you're just grasping at straws, trying to figure out, is this treatment protocol the right one? As you've mentioned, you've been on quite a few now, and you're
Hmm.
still having some symptoms. And it's like, which one's the right fit? What's really the ultimate root cause here? What's causing all my problems? We don't have those
Yeah.
answers. Whereas with like cancer, it's like, oh, you've got thyroid cancer. Okay, we're going to take out your
Hmm.
thyroid. We're going to monitor your levels. Like, we know exactly kind of the standard treatment path forward. And this one
Yeah.
is very enigmatic and not clear cut at all. And, you take 2 steps forward and you take 10 back and you're like, oh,
Hmm.
I'm feeling much better. And all of a sudden it's like, something else
Yeah.
occurs and you're like, wait, I didn't even know that was possible. Like, and that's something I always encourage people is, it's not a straight line out to health again. Unfortunately, with this, it's much more of a topsy-turvy, twisty, roller coaster kind of a thing that will
Right.
ultimately hopefully get to the end.
Hmm.
And so I just applaud you in your efforts and what you're doing and the amount of resilience that you show and determination and that you're still here. Like, I
Yeah.
I
Thank
get
you.
it, and thinking about with your detox, I wanted to ask you earlier, I would imagine that you've been tested for the MTHFR mutation.
Hmm. Yeah. So, and I feel kind of dumb, like, because it was so long ago. but I believe they were worried that I had that because that would be with the mold and the Lyme and all of that, but I don't believe I did have it when they checked it.
Great.
So that was one of the other big test things that they checked me for. But yeah, I've seen a lot of people having that and also wreaking havoc with the mold and everything.
Yes. And you had your heavy metals checked too, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. And that wasn't as big of a burden as the mold and the Lyme. It was very like minimal, I would say. So even though it's still there, it's still a part of it. The other stuff was definitely,
More pressing.
yeah, more pressing.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, I mentioned, but it's like the number of people I talk to that don't understand to get tested for mold or heavy metals in this arena is mind blowing. And any specialist who is helping people with Lyme and tick-borne illness, please make a mental note that you really need to get your patients checked for mold and heavy metals. That's only out of fairness to them and their pocketbook, because you can throw a million pounds of supplements at it. And if you're not getting to the root cause, if it be mold or heavy metals, like you're probably just not going to heal. And it's just going to take a lot longer to get to the end game. So,
Yeah,
but man, like this is again, 26 years now that you're 23 years that you've been battling this. That's a really long time. People don't
yeah,
understand it. It's like, that's the other thing too with other sicknesses like cancer or whatever. It's like, oh, I've been sick for a year, or like this is most of your life, like your entire existence as a being has been consumed with this, and that gets tiring. That gets really hard and heavy to carry for over and over by yourself. I'm glad that you've got support of your family. Like I know your mom, she's a really wonderful human, and I've not met your father, but like I'm glad that
yeah,
again they're supporting you, and you have a very nice fiance, it looks like, and he's definitely very
yeah,
much in love with you. And I'm glad for you that you have that support too, because sometimes people don't even have that. And if you're
yeah,
listening and you have a friend or a loved one with Lyme, just let them know that you're there for them. You don't necessarily have to have answers for them, but just be there for them. It's very hard to predict when you're going to have a flare up, like if you're not going to be able to make an event that you were looking forward to or something like this. And that's hard for the person with Lyme because they want to be there. They want to be a participant in life's activities and being a part of the family and being just a good human on that level. And it's very debilitating to the soul when you can't participate. And you wake up in the morning, you're like, oh, it's a good day. And then 3 hours later, you're like, oh my God, it's not a good day. Oh God, what's happening? And no, I can't go to this plan that I've made with so-and-so. And it's a rough road for both sides of this equation. And so just make sure, again, if you're just somebody who's there to support someone with Lyme and tick-borne illness, that you just let them know that you love them, that they matter, that you see them, that they are not well, but that they're healing. I always acknowledge that people are healing. And that's something I think is very important too, is how we frame this, and that we're not sick, we're not unwell, we're not ill, we're healing. We're always in
mhm.
the space of healing and figuring out different ways forward, one foot after the next. Um, and as a final thought, Ryan, if you don't mind, could you please share with us, as my favorite question here, it's a little bit of a warped one, but like, what's the best thing that's happened to you as a result of getting Lyme and tick-borne illness?
Yeah, I definitely think there's been so many silver linings of having Lyme. But I would say definitely a big one has just been getting so much more in tune with my body than like you could ever imagine. I truly like know, okay, if I eat this thing, am I gonna have a flare? Like I know that if I push myself too much, I'm gonna like pay for it basically. But I really know, like at this point, I know a lot of people in the chronic illness community know about the spoon theory, and that's like I live by that every day of just like, okay, today my shower and brushing my hair and doing one change of a load of laundry is taking all my spoons. But then I'm so grateful when I have the days that I can go out to eat with my friends, or I can go do this. Like I have more spoons. So I feel like I've just had so much more gratitude for a lot of the small things, because for a while I couldn't even drive myself places. My mom had to drive me everywhere and bring me to the grocery store or get my groceries for me. And I couldn't go out with my friends or do a lot in my almost entire 20s. Like I couldn't drink, I couldn't go out. I really was very homebound for a while. So now when I'm able to do those things, I'm like so excited to the point where lately I feel like when I've had the energy to do it, I just like say yes to everything and I want to do everything and I want to go to the store by myself and I just like want to do everything. And then I'm like, okay, I need to reel it in a little bit and not say yes to everything I missed out on because I'm really feeling it now. But I just feel like I appreciate those little things, even just going for a drive around town, like listening to music so much because before that's just something any 20 something year old does on a daily basis pretty much, but not being able to do it for so long now, I just like appreciate so much. Yeah, so just appreciating a lot and also just getting so like a lot of people can look at it like, oh, why is this happening to me? Like I can't work or I can't move out and live somewhere really cool or this or that. But I just feel like it's also like happening for me in a way that it's redirected me in a lot of areas of my life and made me so much more interested in health and wellness and all of that too. So yeah, there's a lot of little blessings woven into the hardships of it all.
Yeah. And again, that's the attitude right there that will really help heal you from the inside out too. It's just
Yeah.
having the gratitude, understanding that without our health, we're really nothing. And
Mhm.
it's hard to enjoy the little moments like birds singing or going to the grocery store or listening to music or whatever when we don't feel well. It's very hard
Mhm.
to appreciate those things. And so the fact that you still have that gratitude in your heart is beautiful. Keep up with that. And again, it is when I look back on my own journey, like it was hard, but it was really beautiful. And I'm with you in that. It's like I've learned how to understand my body so much better, to be much more aware of myself, to have such greater self-love, right? And
Mhm.
I mean, not maybe that we were abusive towards ourselves prior to this, but I was in a lot of ways. And this helped me really pull myself back out of those bad habits that I was falling into. And while it sucks to not be able to drink or to eat the things that you want, or just again to be able to participate in all those things, sometimes those things aren't really the greatest for our soul's evolution anyways. Drinking in particular, I think about is just
Right.
I'm pretty conservative on that. It's like I think of it as a poison and it's just very bad. So it's sort of
Yeah.
saving you from that
Yeah.
in those
Yeah.
experiences. But again, I just really appreciate your attitude and your resilience and your determination. And I pray for you. I really hope that things shift more so in the positive health direction for you and that you're able to have all good days and no bad days any longer because you've suffered enough. You've been through plenty. And
Thank you.
keep looking forward to the things that you have to look forward to in life, like your wedding. And
Mhm.
I don't know if you're intending to have children or, whatever that future looks like for you. Those are the things that help propel us forward as well and hold on to
Yeah.
those things and have a why. That's a really big thing for people. Sometimes I think they lose their whys. And so keep
Yeah.
that.
Totally. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and thank you again for sharing your story. I really do appreciate you taking the time to help others learn a little bit more about this and what this looks like. And as a last thing too, if people are interested to reach out to you, what would be the best way for them to go about contacting you, Ryan?
I would say I have a Lyme Instagram account and it's called Lyme into Coconut. So you can check it out on there. I have shared a lot of all the phases of going through treatments and good days, bad days, everything in between. So definitely find me on there.
I'll have to look for that because I only see you
Yeah.
on Facebook. So Lyme into,
Yeah.
I like that name. That's very cute.
Thank you.
Yes. So I will look for you there myself as well. And just wish you the best here and keep going with what you're doing. You're doing a great job.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks, Brian.